Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the PSBlue podcast, available everywhere. This is episode 28, two away from the big 30. I'm joined again by my wonderful co-host, Adonis. How are we doing today?
We are doing great. It is Monday. It's the start of the week, and we are hoping for a wonderful podcast and a wonderful week for the Rangers to win.
Ooh, you dropped my New York Rangers. Yes, that is true. There's no quote of the week again because I am a week behind editing because I'm in the middle of moving, and I also am in the middle of this New York Rangers playoff experience. I have a playoff beard and everything, but we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about video games. Adonis, are you playing anything that we need to know about since last week? I know you said you picked Elden Ring back up. Anything else that you're dipping your toes in?
No, I just kind of the regular stuff. I mean, work's been a little busy and been hanging out with my daughter a lot, so I haven't really had time to play anything in depth. But nope, just that.
And what is your hype level on a scale of 1 to 10? It seems like last week it was about a 10 for Shadow of the Erd Tree. What is it now? Is it still hovering right around a 10?
Hell yeah. Hell, absolutely yes. I mean,
yes. Okay, me too.
The game's going to change lives. The DLC, excuse me. I mean, it might as well be a game, but the DLC is going to change lives, and it's June, man. I can't wait for it.
Can't wait
much longer.
I'm playing more of the same stuff, but I've been bouncing around trying to find something that's going to really hook me, and I think I found it. It's Animal Well. We're going to talk about it a little bit later in the podcast.
Animal Well.
Yes, we're going to talk about it. It's kind of blowing up.
You and your animal games.
Yes, but it's blowing up the video game world right now. People are freaking out over Animal Well, and rightfully so. It's really good, but we'll get into that. Still trying to beat Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. That game is absolutely massive. I'm 70 hours in, and I still haven't.
Haven't beaten it?
No.
Are you completing it, or are you I'm taking your time?
Yeah, I'm not doing everything, but I'm doing all. There's like different open world areas, and I'm doing all of that stuff, and I'm doing all the side quests, but there's only like 4 side quests per area, but it's massive. All the other things you got to do, there's different monsters you can fight, and it's sort of you checking off. It's a checklist in each region, and there's several regions, so I don't know exactly how many, but yeah, I think if I just sprinted through the story, I still think it would be like a 45-hour long.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what's the standard runtime to get from the start to the finish of the game?
Probably 45 to 50 hours. That's how the first one was. So, and then there's a third one, and Final Fantasy VII 3 Part 3. That'll wrap it up. But anyway, still playing that. I'll report back when I'm done. We got a lot to talk about today. Again, I said there's no quote of the week because I'm lazy and I am a week behind on editing, but we got some stuff to talk about. Fallout 4, PS5 Pro, Square Enix that we were just talking about earlier, Final Fantasy VII developer, Judas, and Animal Well. No quote of the week. Let's dive right in. I want to talk about this first. Fallout 4. According to VideoGamesChronicle.com, Fallout 4 was April's best-selling game in the UK. What? Fallout 4?
No surprise.
No surprise, Adonis says. This shocked me because this Fallout 4 is a game that is several years old. Here's why, a couple reasons why I think this happened though. Number one, there was a next-gen update, right? So there's a native PS5 version and a native Xbox Series version now for Fallout 4. Frame rate update, and you can. It's supposed to run at 60 FPS, but we'll see. I haven't played it. Also, the Fallout show on, I want to say Amazon, is absolutely taking the world by storm. People are loving that show.
It's awesome.
And I think the combination of those two things, and obviously there was some calculations made here, kind of put Fallout 4 back into the meta here. Adonis, is this why, for the reasons I just listed, is this why you're saying it's no surprise that it's number 1 in the UK against other games that just came out?
Yeah, which whenever you have, I think it's really important to point out the next gen version of the game, but also Amazon putting out their show Fallout. I don't know which game it models. I think it models Fallout 4 in terms of storyline, but that show was so easily, you were able to digest the show so easy that you didn't need to have prior knowledge of playing the game to understand what was going on. But then those that hadn't played the game were like, well, this was based on a game? Okay, I want to play the game. And then you have gamers that just the pure nostalgia for it all made them go back and revisit the game. So I think those two factors are the biggest reason why it's the best selling game in the UK this month.
So I'm assuming you watched the show then?
Yeah, I'm 5 episodes in.
Okay.
It's super enjoyable.
I was trying to fact check like where it takes place in relationship to the story of the games. All I can find out is that quick search, the TV series is set in 2296. So I am not a fan of Fallout. It's not that I dislike the games. I never really got into them, but that means nothing to me. 2296. Did you play Fallout 4? Do you have any interest in the Fallout 4 PS5 update? Anything?
No, I mean I'm a fan of the Fallout games. I'm not that big of a fan. Like I don't need to dive back in and replay the game over again. I kind of had my fun with it when it was out, and now I can enjoy the show. But a lot of people aren't going to think like me, and that's why it's one of the best selling games this month in the UK, which is fine.
What about 76? Did you play 76 at all?
No, I didn't play 76 at all.
Just me neither. Just curious. So yeah, that's that. Very quick little headline, but I thought that was interesting that a game that came out in 2015 is the best selling game in a major market in the world.
Huge.
Like it's really it is. And the fact that they're taking a game that came out in 2015 and they're able to make a native next gen version, I think speaks volumes of what these consoles are capable of, and the fact that, you know, developers are very, very invested in their IPs. Not the new IPs. You know, you'll always see new IPs, but they're IPs that they've already invested in. When you're talking about sequels that get to the 4s, the 5s, where, you know, they want to pursue IP. I mean, look at Square. We're going to talk about Square in a second here, but they remade Final Fantasy VII, a game that's, I think, 30 years old or something like that, and they broke it up into 3 video games. So, I mean, you see it in movies, you see it in TV shows, but the IPs that we know and love, like kind of hitting that nostalgia, it's real, and you know, these companies are taking full advantage of it.
They need to. That's kind of where our hearts lie. They know how to do it right.
How do you feel about this next topic, the PS5 Pro? It's been kind of rumored. This is all just kind of rumors circulating around. This is off of IGN. This is a quote from IGN. Sony PS5 Pro reveal rumored to take place at the supposed May 2024 PlayStation Showcase. You know, the showcases that they do every few months. There's a rumor that the PS5 Pro is going to be revealed. There was also rumored specs for the PS6. How does all this make you feel? Is there anything you're expecting or anything you're looking for? Talk to me.
I mean, the PS5 is a unit of power. With every iteration of the console, they'll get better over time. That's cool. That's awesome. I think PlayStation need to slow their roll. You got too much dip on your chip, okay? With COVID-19, with the need for PPE, the production of controllers, consoles, and the demand for them still staying the same, but it being harder to get your hands on it, had the world in a chokehold for what, 2 years, 2.5 years. You couldn't get one on the shelves. The PS5 is still new in my mind, and I don't think there's aesthetically and even internally a drastic change they need to make. As far as like, I don't look at the PS5, and I don't know about you, but I don't look at the PS5 and go, man, they could really do this better. Man, they really need to put out the next iteration of this console because it doesn't do its job. No, it's a strong console. Graphics are great. we still have probably another 50 to 100 titles that we're going to get on the PS5 that's going to, knock your socks off. They don't need a PS5 Pro. They could put it out. I don't think there'll be a demand for it as high as the original PS5. I think it's nice. I think people that have the money are going to get it. I think that the specs for that console will be better, of course, but will it be as good to the point where you need it? No. I mean, PlayStation want to make money, but I'm not going to have a need for the PS5 Pro. I'm very satisfied with good old Shirley right down here next to me.
Good old Shirley.
Yeah.
Some additional projected, I guess, or leaked specs for the new PS5 Pro. This again is courtesy of IGN. Quote, the PS5 Pro will have a max clock speed of 2.35 gigahertz, which will come through 30 work group processors and 56 compute units, with 4 disabled instead of 60 compute units to increase the max clock speed.
They know what they're doing. When they put on, they know what they're doing. The average human doesn't know what that means.
Well, let me finish, because one of our listeners, this might mean the world to them.
It sounds great. I understand most of it. It sounds awesome, but it's still not worth it.
So, doing some quick math, we come to the conclusion that this will increase the max clock speed from 2.18 gigahertz to 2.35 gigahertz and reach the previously mentioned 33.5 teraflops of power. What does that mean to the layperson? Nothing. What does it mean to me? This is so I'm going to push back a little bit. I want to say first, I agree 95% with what you're saying. I think the PS5 is a monster console. It took me an extra year to get my hands on it because of what happened in COVID, and I wanted it day one. I couldn't get it day one. When I finally got my hands on it, I was so excited, and I'm in love with this console. It is a fantastic console. The controller is great. Everything you already said, I'm going to echo, but I do have one gripe. And I've brought it up on this channel before, and I've mentioned it more than I've talked about it more than I really want to, but it's something that's always in the back of my mind. When you boot up a game like a Horizon Forbidden West or a Ghost of Tsushima or that's a bad example, but Horizon Forbidden West, a big AAA PS5, not exclusive, but PS5 game, and you're faced with this choice of quality mode or performance mode. Even a game like Elden Ring. Elden Ring is a little more obvious performance mode because you need to have reaction time because that game's hard. But, quality mode, performance mode, quality mode, performance mode, quality mode, performance mode. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. That's another one. I'm playing it in quality mode right now because the game's gorgeous. But it's 30 FPS. That game runs a lot more smoothly at 60 FPS. This back and forth that I'm constantly doing where I need to see, and I have to look it up on every single game is a little bit different. Some games run better in the 30 FPS mode. Some games are actually animated and designed around 30 FPS. But what if we could have the best of both worlds? What if we could have a game that runs at 60 frames and has the graphics of quality mode without sacrificing anything, and it was just locked into one mode? I'm sick of having to choose between the two. If I could buy a device that is, the PS5 Pro or whatever they're going to call it, and it does that, and it combines both modes, and I can play 60 FPS and native 4K resolution, I'm buying that day one. That's a big deal. That's a big enough deal for me to buy it day one. Does that mean anything to you?
I mean, we're going to get there. Is it that big of a difference though?
Yes, it's a massive difference. I mean, is this not something that annoys you when you boot up God of War Ragnarok and you're trying to decide, do I want to really get the best possible graphics I can get or the best possible gameplay I can get? Like, did you not have to go back and forth with that, or do you just automatically leave it on whatever the developers default it to? Like,
I leave it on whatever the developers defaulted to.
That's usually what I do too, but sometimes I just get too wrapped up in it and I got to switch back and forth and just to see. Spider-Man was another one that I did this with. Spider-Man I played on quality mode too, because that's another game it's too gorgeous to not have ray tracing on. in New York City swinging your web around and just like going in there. Like that's like I need to see that. But when I put it on 60 FPS and then switched it's more subtle, but when you put it on 60 FPS and then you switch it back to 30 FPS, everything feels like there's sludge on it. Like everything feels slower, but then you get used to it.
It does.
You get used to it. I don't know. It like I said, it depends on the game, but I'm just sick of having to decide between one or the other. I just want to put the game in and play. And if you already do that, that's great. But it might just be a thing for me. This might not be a major concern of most people. But I've like when Vinny was recording the podcast, this was something we would argue about all the time. He would always put it on performance no matter what. And I finally got him to concede when Hogwarts Legacy came out. He said, I played that one on quality and I turned it on to quality because that game was just so cool. I loved being in that Harry Potter universe and I needed to see everything at the top level. Right. So that's all I'm saying. If we could have that and also have the performance to match, I will buy the PS5 Pro day one. But you know, that's part of that also has to do with having a PlayStation podcast. I want to be able to report to you all who are listening. I want to be able to do my due diligence too, but you know, I'm probably going to buy it no matter what.
You're going to buy the PS5 Pro?
Yeah, probably.
What's the price point on it? Talk to me.
We don't know yet. Everything's just a rumor. But I'm assuming it's going to be.
Come on. Oh, you think it'll be $500?
Yeah. Yeah. I think they're going to knock the PS5 down to $400, not the digital, the disc version to $400. Okay. And then when they release the PS5 Pro, that'll be the new entry level $500. Well, the entry level will be $400, but
then in 3 years when they release the PS6, you'll be like, I want that too.
But that happened to me last console generation because I was going to get a PS4 Pro because I have the original PS4 and that thing chugs now.
Oh, that thing is yeah, it's like a lawnmower when you turn it on. That shit is strong.
It chugs. And so I was like, oh man, I really want to get the PS4 Pro. And then they announced the PS5. So you're right. Mm-hmm. This is exactly what happened. They announced the PS5. I was like, well, I'm not going to drop $300, $400 on a PS4 Pro and then turn around and buy the PS5 right after. That's just not something I'm going to do. You know, so that you bring up a very good counter argument. However, I think for the podcast, I'm going to have to buy this just to give my due diligence.
There better be just a massive, like easy to see difference with that console. If not, it's going to be hell to pay for people who buy it, you know, if you're, I mean, from what, 3.1 to 3.3 teraflops a second. Sure.
That means nothing to me.
So, I mean, its load times will be a little bit shorter, but
I don't think that even has to do with load times because I think that the load times is more the SSD in the console. You know what I mean? But I mean, I could be wrong, but I feel like the processing power is more for maybe pushing the limits of the gameplay. But
yeah, and it's seamless already. I mean,
I agree.
Unreal Engine's about to be out here almost said a bad word. Unreal Engine's about to be out here effing up stuff, man. Unreal Engine and Wukong and the games that they decide Unreal Engine need to run on, or what games will run on Unreal Engine, is going to change a lot. And I think the PS5 can handle it.
We've already seen Unreal Engine 5. You're talking about pushing the limits of Unreal Engine 5?
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
okay.
Absolutely.
Because I mean, I feel like we got there's Layers of Fear had Unreal Engine 5, Lords of the Fallen had Unreal Engine 5, the new Tekken game I'm pretty sure is Unreal Engine 5.
And it looked beautiful.
Okay, here we go. I'm gonna ask you this, and then we'll move on because I think I'm losing some listeners. This is dragging this topic a little bit, and I don't want to. Anyway, Tekken 8. It looks beautiful, right?
Mm-hmm.
How does it play? As a fighting game fan, does it
seamlessly?
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. Then I take it back. If it plays that good and looks that good, then you know the developers obviously knew what they were doing.
They took their time.
Let's move on because
what's next? What we
got? We got Square Enix aggressively pursuing multi-platform. Now, what does this mean exactly? This is from Kotaku.com. Quote, Final Fantasy Maker promises quality over quantity and fewer exclusives in major strategy reboot. This is from a 3-year plan, quote unquote, was released to the public, where Square Enix, you know, that little company that made Final Fantasy VII Remake, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Final Fantasy 16, Final Fantasy 14 Online, all these games that are huge. They also have some, you know, games like Valkyrie Profile. That's the name of the franchise, but it was Valkyrie Elysium, something like that. That came out. There's other games that come out that just don't really do much, and I guess they want to eliminate the flops and really push the AAA titles, and they want to release everything on multi-platform day one. As you know, Final Fantasy VII and Final Fantasy 16 have both had exclusivity stints with Sony. So that's why this is important for the PlayStation part of this podcast. What does this do for Sony? Does this affect us in any way as PlayStation fans that Square wants? They are making a point, according to this report. They are making a point of having all their games come out on all consoles day one, no matter what. This is going to make them more money in their eyes.
I think it's a good move by them to re-strategize and not to want to put out such a large catalog of games, but to make sure that and they've already been doing a good job. Like, the public hasn't beseeched Square Enix to do better or release more. They've been doing, I mean, you're playing Final Fantasy VII Remake, 70 hours? And you're enjoying the game and you love it.
Yeah.
It's a what's the word I'm looking for? It's a proactive move by them, and we'll read the article, we'll react to it, and then we'll say, good job. Good job. It's not that they weren't doing a good job, but good job. Like, you guys are taking it upon yourselves to say, hey, we understand you as the consumer might think that you're happy with the product that we get from us, but hey, we can do better. We will do better for all gamers. I think that's big. I think that's huge.
Yeah, and cool. I agree. I mean, I think at the end of the day, it's more reach, more platforms is just a good thing in general. But what do we talk about all the time on this podcast? PlayStation, we got the games. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like Sony can't compete with the capital firepower that Microsoft has. They just have more money, probably tenfold than Sony does. They're both massive companies, but Microsoft is just gobbling up companies, and then they're starting to release their stuff on multi-platform too. So it's kind of a weird situation that you're seeing. But we do talk about this, how PlayStation has the God of Wars and the Spider-Mans and the Ratchet and Clanks and the Horizons and the Ghost of Tsushimas and the
Until Dawn, Heavy Rain,
the Final Fantasies. So this is removing one of those, and this is giving you kind of a landscape view of what these developers are kind of feeling right now. Square clearly feels like they lost out on business opportunities and millions, maybe even billions of dollars by not also having some of the PlayStation exclusive or timed exclusive games on Microsoft consoles or on PC or on Switch even, which who would want to play Final Fantasy VII Rebirth?
Lord Jesus, I was like, please God.
But, they feel like it's a missed opportunity for them. What does that say about other developers and sort of that landscape moving forward? Are you worried that some other like Animal Well is, which we're going to talk about in a minute, that's a PlayStation exclusive right now. It's on PC and Sony consoles only. It's not on Xbox. So, and that game is absolutely massive right now. What happens if other developers that are third-party developers with exclusivity deals start to follow suit and they don't want to have these exclusivity deals anymore? Does this worry you about the landscape moving forward for Sony? I said landscape like 18 times, but it's the word of the day.
It's the perfect word. It's the perfect word for the situation that you're talking about. So it's admissible. I'll allow it. It's hard to really put it as a pro or a con, I loved PlayStation exclusives because I'm like, none of you Xbox folks, that's the PG word, folks, none of y'all can bring y'all Xbox asses, that's an okay word, asses over here. We gonna play Heavy Rain, we gonna play Until Dawn, we gonna play God of War, we're gonna play Last of Us. Those are our games, stay over there. And I think Bethesda, since we're speaking on gaming studios, I think Bethesda threw their hat in the ring, and they're like, "Oh, okay. Hey, listen, we're rolling with Microsoft, and we understand that you Microsoft gamers want more exclusives like PlayStation has. So Bethesda's like, okay, we're gonna do that, and they showed some. Well, E3's gone now, but they showed some of the titles they were gonna release at E3. Cool, great, amazing. Yes, Square Enix would make a lot more money if they go, hey, the next iteration of Last of Us, hey, the next iteration of Heavy Rain, hey, the next iteration of whatever exclusive has
These aren't Square games, but you're just saying, like, in general.
Yeah, in general.
I know what you mean.
These PlayStation exclusives that have been home, quote unquote home, for so long will now be available to all gamers. Oh, Microsoft players will jump out of the chair and run to the nearest GameStop to buy the game. Yeah, right. For sure. And that's a lot more money for Square Enix. So it's kind of hard. I'm on the fence. Like, it's a good thing, but it's a bad thing because I want it just for me. I'm all PlayStation, baby. Microsoft can kick rocks. But it will make them a lot more money. More money means, more games, better development. So I guess it's a good thing.
Yeah, I kind of agree with all of that. Even the kind of fanboy stuff that was coming out at the end, I kind of agree with that too. I'm a Sony guy too. Obviously, we have a PlayStation podcast, but yeah, I kind of think it is ultimately a good thing. I think the more it's, I wanted to reiterate, by the way, Animal Well is on Switch. It's not on Xbox. It's on Switch and PlayStation. That would actually be a good game to play on Switch, Animal Well. Can't you tell I'm dying to talk about it? But yeah, I think I agree with you. It is something that is ultimately good, even though it leaves a little bit of a bad taste in our mouths because we hold those games so dear. Those Heavy Rains, like you said, I love that game, by the way. That was a great callback.
Beautiful game.
And our Horizons and our God of Wars. Like, I remember when Kingdom Hearts 3 I found out was coming to Xbox, I was actually sad about it, which looking back now, that's ridiculous. But I was sad about it. I was like, this is a Sony game. Kingdom Hearts is a PlayStation game. How could you put this on Xbox? But, then you grow up and you realize, like, this isn't doing, you want more people to play the games that you love because they deserve to be played, A. Yep. And B, the more copies of a game that is sold, the more likely it is that you're going to get the next iteration of that game that you love so much. So, we see the video game world kind of shrinking in that respect, where you're seeing a lot less exclusive games. Call of Duty. Microsoft could have pulled Call of Duty from Sony, but they would have lost billions of dollars if they did that because they own Activision now. So like they remember that was a whole big deal last year. Yeah. So yeah, I mean you're seeing these companies realize that there is more upside to selling software than there is to selling hardware, I think is the ultimate moral of the story here. Because yes, Sony wants to push PS5s. They want to push PS5 Pros. They want to push PlayStation Portals. They want to push their headsets, everything. They want to sell hardware, but think about how much money they make on a $70 video game sale versus how much they make on a PlayStation 5 console sale. I guarantee you it's not that far of a difference. The PS5s cost them, if I had to just guess, just throw a random dart at a dartboard, I would say anywhere between $300 and $350 if you look at the specs. Mm-hmm. So they're only making $150 on a PS5. If an Xbox player buys 2 Sony games at $70, that basically covers the cost of that right there. And they know this. And that sort of, I think, adds to this dynamic, But that's all I really got on this topic. Do you have anything to say about this?
I mean, Microsoft players, welcome. Y'all about to taste the best that Square Enix has to offer. And yeah, welcome to the fold.
Yeah, and you know they've been tasting Square Enix games. Like I said, Square Enix is third party. Microsoft or Sony doesn't own them by any means. They just happen to have exclusivity deals in place and have a better relationship with Sony than they do with Microsoft. But yeah, I think that this is an interesting move by Square. Moving on, Judas. What do you know before we get into this? What do you know about Judas?
Nothing.
The game. Nothing. Okay.
Nothing.
Okay.
Open my mind.
Okay, I'm going to tell you about Judas a little bit. What do you know? What do you know about a little game called BioShock? Do you know anything about a game called BioShock?
Ooh, not with the big daddies. Not with the big daddies.
BioShock is one of my favorite games of all time.
Man, that game. Infinite is where they lost me.
Okay. I didn't play Infinite. I played the original. I played a little bit of 2. And I was all set with that. But the first BioShock, the story, the big twist at the end, that game is one of my all-time favorite memories as a kid and just as someone who plays video games in general. Ken Levine, absolute mastermind. He is he's the director, but he's the creative influence behind BioShock, you know, and he made a new game called Judas, and people are losing their minds over this game. And it has been like, people have been like, well, Ken Levine, where are you at? Where's Judas? What's going on? And then finally, we got a little teaser trailer. I forget the event that they showed it at. It was probably some E3 equivalent, if it wasn't E3, but we got a little trailer, no story. I mean, no gameplay. And then a little bit of gameplay started sprinkling out to the masses. And this game looks like, first of all, it's completely different than BioShock in the sense that the world building, the world that they're building is like tech, almost cyberpunk-y to me, just glossing over it. Nothing like BioShock, but the world building, the presentation, the gameplay from the quick look at it, the atmosphere all reminds me of BioShock and those really good single player story driven games where I am like, Ken Levine, I am sold. This is a day one purchase for me. I am so excited for it. It's basically BioShock in space. You know, like I said, the world looks completely different, but it doesn't at the same time. I don't know if that makes sense or not.
I'm sorry, I'm watching it right now. It looks great.
Right. So I just wanted to talk about Judas because we haven't yet on this podcast. What do you, and this is the first exposure you have to this game, so I'm going to turn it over to you now. How do you feel about this? How do you feel about this being a spiritual successor to the original BioShock and more or less Infinite? Like, how do you feel about it?
I'm a big visual guy, okay? I'm an aesthetics guy. You need to make me look at something nice before I decide if I want to commit to it. They've done their job. It looks very nice. Graphics are insane. I'm a big fan of the techie sci-fi things that are out of our realm of understanding. From watching the trailer, the character that you're using in this FPS has their left and right hand is practically bone, and this like circular generator hovers over the wrist and goes up and constructs the hand. To me, like, it's those little things where I'm like, well, I want to know more. Like, this looks fun. Can I do this? What does it mean? And it's the questioning alone that gets me going. Like, now I'm like, okay, I would definitely day one purchase this game because it aesthetically looks great, but it also has that aspect of, you know, sci-fi and space and fighting monsters or whatever it may be. I'm working towards being sold on this game.
Yeah, it just looks like a world you want to explore. Like the trailer that I sent you with some gameplay video in it, just pick any time in that entire video and just pause it and look around. And I just want to explore that world. And that's the feeling I got with BioShock. The best character in BioShock was the world. You know what I mean? And that's what makes BioShock such a good game. And that's why it was such an important game, because you couldn't do BioShock in a movie. I know I say this a lot, but I just want to reiterate this. You could make a BioShock movie, but you're not going to get the same exploratory sort of feeling that you would from playing it as a game. BioShock needed to be a game because it was a world that was meant to be explored at your own leisure, in your own way, figuring things out in a first person sort of dynamic, right? You see the same thing with Judas here. This is a quote from PlayStation's website page on Judas. Quote, "A disintegrating starship, a desperate escape plan. You are the mysterious and troubled Judas. Your only hope for survival is to make or break alliances with your worst enemies. Will you work together to fix what you broke, or will you leave it to burn?" Judas is a narrative FPS developed by Ghost Story Games, a studio led by Ken Levine, creative director of System Shock 2, BioShock, and BioShock Infinite. End quote. So, that's the little SparkNotes version of what we're getting here. I'm really excited for this.
It looks great.
Yeah, I'm really excited for this.
It's a mech carrier that's modeled after a dog.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I could go on and on about it. Us talking about what's in the videos is not going to do it justice. You're just going to have to see this for yourself. I'm very happy to have introduced this to you on the podcast. It's been a long time coming. We've been waiting for something from Ken Levine. I will say, when a creative director goes off and creates their own studio and does their own thing apart from, they create a new IP, it doesn't always work. It has mixed reviews. We saw it with Callisto Protocol.
Yeah, we did.
The creator of Dead Space made his own spiritual successor to Dead Space, and it didn't come out as good as I think anybody had hoped.
Mm-hmm.
But talk about pedigree. I think Ken Levine, BioShock, it's too high of a hype level for them to screw this up. I don't think there's any risk in pre-ordering, and I don't like pre-ordering games, but I don't think there's any risk in pre-ordering this. I think it would, once you can pre-order it, at least, I think it is going to be no less than amazing. I think whatever year this game comes out in, it is going to be a Game of the Year contender immediately.
Off the bat.
Like, that's the type of quality storytelling, world building, and gameplay we are getting from Ken Levine as a creative director. I cannot reiterate how excited I am for this game. Do you have anything else to say about Judas before we move on to Animal Well?
I didn't know anything about this title. I didn't know exactly what you were talking. I thought you were talking about, Judas that betrayed Jesus. I didn't know what you were talking about. But now, watching this trailer, listening to Ken Levine, it's a game that I'm looking forward to. I want to see some gameplay, and I definitely want to play it.
Yeah, I am already sold, and it sounds like I'm selling you on it too, so that's great. This is it. This is the last topic of this episode. It's kind of a bite-sized episode. There wasn't much news stuff going on, so I had to look at the backlog, and that's part of the reason why Judas came into the fray, because I'd been wanting to talk about Judas for months, but we had a bunch of stuff to talk about. This week was just kind of an empty week.
It really was.
Until Animal Well came out. That is. Animal Well. What is going on with this game? It was a game that came out of absolutely nowhere and just smashed. It is, before we talk about what Animal Well is exactly, it's a Metroidvania. That's all I'm going to say. I wanted to look up the Metacritic score for this game, because it is, now, like we always say, take reviews with a grain of salt. A review shouldn't make or break your want to play a game. But when a game is this outstanding, it deserves to be spoken about. 91 on Metacritic.
That's
for
strong.
an indie game, first time publisher. I want to say first time developer, but I don't know that for sure. Like at least a game of this scale. Billy Basso is his name. I'm gonna look this up. Yeah, I don't know if any of the other games this guy has made on this scale, at least. Like, this game is blowing up. 91 on Metacritic. People are calling it an early game of the year contender. It is a very simple, very small, bite-sized game as far as data. Like, you download it in 2 seconds and it's on your hard drive. Pixel art, really just gorgeous pixel art though. Like, some of the most gorgeous pixel art I've ever seen.
That's what I'm looking at it now. It looks great.
Yeah. I mean, the lighting effects that they combine, foreground, background stuff that they combine, just the way that the world is crafted is just very consistent, at least what I've played so far.
Yeah. I can get behind something like this.
Yeah, and that's kind of the story. It's every video I've seen on Animal Well, that I've seen at least, because I've been trying to avoid it because I don't want spoilers for myself. But the videos that I have watched all kind of say the same thing. The articles that I've read all kind of say the same thing. We don't want to ruin this for you, right? We don't want to spoil the magic. We talk about spoilers all the time, but this is a game that needs to be experienced firsthand. This is not a game that you want.
You watch a playthrough. Yeah, you don't want to watch a playthrough. You want to get your hands on it.
Right. You want to get your hands on it, and you don't want any of it spoiled. You don't want any of the secrets, because that's the beauty of a game in this genre, Metroidvania, is that you see something off to the side or a platform you can't reach, and you're like, I know one day I'll be able to go up there. I don't know how or when, and then you discover this tool or this game mechanic that wasn't there before, and you go, oh yeah, that platform from 6 hours ago, I need to go back there and see what was up there. And you go up there and you think it's going to be a treasure chest, and it's a whole new part of the map. And this is not a spoiler for Animal Well. This is just something that happens in Metroidvanias in general. But Animal Well in particular has such a specific feeling to it that, again, not to just repeat myself like I did with Judas, it's something that you need to just experience. It is just so pleasant to play, and the pacing of it is so good that once you pick it up, it's hard to put down. And it's really hard to point out exactly what it is about this game that makes it so good, at least as far as I've gotten. Mm-hmm. And the things that I do want to say about it, like I said, I can't say. I'll just say this. The game is full of surprises. It's full of surprises and it's full of twists and turns in the game mechanics, let's just say. And it starts out off as one thing and kind of builds into something else, and it's just a pleasure the whole time. This is the most vague I think I've ever been on this podcast since I started recording it. But I really don't want to spoil this game for people. It's cool. There's a lot of different animals. That's all I'll say. It's called Animal Well. What do you have to say, Adonis, about the gameplay I showed you? Is just like kind of the opening 20 minutes, so it's nothing spoiler-y. But what do you have to say about this game, Metroidvanias, how the game is taking over the internet and taking over the critical sort of landscape? Again, to use landscape, damn it, I used landscape 50 times, but anyway.
It happens that way sometimes.
This game it's an automatic game of the year contender now. What do you have to say about any of that?
I watched the gameplay, and I don't think it's any exaggeration. The game looks great. The game just looks like a ton of fun. It looks like something you want to get your hands on. It's outside of I wouldn't say outside of the norm, because we grew up with those kinds of games. But it's refreshing.
You're talking about pixel art? Like
yeah. It's a breath of fresh air. And I think everybody, no matter where you're at, no matter what era of gaming you gamed in, you'll enjoy the game. And Metacritic thinks so. The public thinks so. And, we the gamers think so.
Yeah.
I think it'll do well.
It's already doing well. It's doing. I'm telling you, it's going to be on the Game of the Year list. If it doesn't win Game of the Year, it's going to be on that list.
You think so?
Yeah. People are calling it Game of the Year by a mile, which is for me is where I'm at in the game. A little bit of a stretch. I think it's gorgeous. I think it's very well done. Everything it does perfectly. But I don't know if it's my Game of the Year yet. I'm not gonna say that. But I'm also not done with it.
It's not my Game of the Year. Damn it.
Not yet. I mean, it could be. It's very creative, and it's a breath of fresh air, like you said. It really is. It's we get so many of the same games over and over again. This random shooter just repackaged into this open world game that's literally the same as the 8 games that came before it. And this is something.
And you're like, I don't want this.
Yeah, this is something completely different. And as far as I can tell, there's 2 buttons to press in this game, and that always impresses me. With
all you need.
A game like this, I saw it in Cocoon, another game. There's like an action button and a jump button, and that's it. Cocoon doesn't even have 2 buttons. Cocoon has 1 button, and there's like sometimes developers overcomplicate things. I think, and this is a perfect example of simplicity meets flawless execution meets a very direct and intentional art style. And I think that people appreciate that. Really.
They definitely do. Of course they do.
I think the public just has a very great appreciation for something that knows what it wants to do and just does it well and executes it and is different. And I just really wanted to shout out Animal Well. I also wanted to say this. This is a big thing that I wanted to say.
What's that?
The game, well, like I said, it'll take you 30 seconds max to download the game. I think my game downloaded in about 5 seconds. Humble brag on real quick on my fast internet speed, but
I got the internet for days.
It is free on PlayStation Plus.
Ooh.
Free on PlayStation Plus.
That's not bad.
No. I was going to buy it anyway, I think, but I downloaded it the second I could because it was free. And it downloaded in seconds, like I said.
And you were like,
and
yes.
I was in. Adonis, just check this game out, please. Just download it and play it for 10 minutes. So okay. the next time we talk next week on the podcast, I expect you to have played at least 30 minutes of Animal Well, at least.
You can get that promise from me. I will.
Okay. All right. Well, I have receipts. It's not in writing, but it's on audio.
It might as well be. Yeah,
it might as well be. Just download it. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything.
That's an even better point. That's an even better reason to.
Just go download it right now.
I wish I could.
You can.
He's like, pause the podcast and go download it now.
It'll take 5 seconds. We don't even have to pause the podcast. That's how fast it'll be. Yeah. I mean, that's really all we got this week. There's, like I said, there's not a lot going on. I guarantee you, the second I hit end recording,
it's gonna be something.
Yeah, all this stuff is gonna hit the fan. A bunch of things are gonna drop, and I'm gonna go, man, But that'll be good. I hope that does happen because that means we'll have things to talk about next week.
Damn right.
But until then, I mean, you know where to keep it. Right here on the PSBlue podcast. We're available on everything. Find us.
And then listen to us.
See you guys.
Have a good one.